I'm gonna show you exactly how to outplay a 2000 rated player here. We are gonna play a 15-minute game, and I'm gonna explain all of my decisions in the process. So let's see what we have here. I'm playing as black, 2063 100 rated player, Kam Daman 2003, I suppose, if I pronounce it correctly, hopefully. And I'm gonna play the old Indian defense. I love this opening so much as black. The idea is to play e5 and, well, fight for the center. I don't want to be passive in the center. And, well, I have now my Christmas outfit, or Happy New Year outfit, better to say, because, well, by the time you're gonna watch this video, it's probably gonna be 2024 already. So Happy New Year, guys. Hope you're gonna enjoy this game, and I hope you have a good time there in 2024. Meanwhile, I'm gonna play e5, and I'm gonna try to put some pressure against him here. And if you want to become my next opponent, all you need to do to achieve that is to hit the like button and write in the comments what you think about this type of games, whether you like it, whether you have some ideas for me how to improve this rubric, so to say, of the videos on the channel to make it even more useful for you. I would really appreciate it. And in a week, I'm gonna choose one random person that is gonna be my opponent here, playing this 15 minutes plus 10 seconds. Of course, that's gonna be very useful for you because I'm gonna explain all of my ideas in the process, as well as comment your decisions throughout the game, so you can use all of that knowledge to improve your chess in 2024. Okay, so e4, I'm gonna play the move c6. This c6 move is one of the most important ones in this entire structure, because I covered those d5 and b5 squares. That's essential, because the knight on c3, of course, would like to jump there and be very active. By the way, I recently played probably the best game in my entire life, 99.5% accuracy, 3250 rating gave me the chess.com review service, and that was a spectacular game. I mean, my opponent literally accused me of cheating, because that combination was just impossible to calculate in 1 second that I have spent to make the first move of that combination, sacrificing my bishop. I mean, that was hilarious. And the funniest thing is, I have just blundered that bishop. And then on the fly, I needed to make it work, and fortunately it all worked out. You can take a look at the video, at the game in this video here, but please watch this one till the end, because, well, you want your chance to be my next opponent here, to be the guest on my show, so to say. Okay, meanwhile, my opponent is still deciding where he wants to put his bishop. Yeah, bishop e2 is one of the main lines. You can also try to play g3 and bishop g2 and place your bishop there. Now, of course, castles is the most reasonable continuation here. Don't see anything. Okay, h3, you can do that if you want, doesn't really matter. And the black 4 plan normally in this type of position is to attack on the queen side. You play a6 and you want to play b5, and then it depends whether white wants to stop it or they just don't care. Both are possible. If they don't stop it, then of course we play b5. We want to put some pressure on the c4 pawn, as well as play b4, attack the knight, and then this pawn on e4 is hanging. That is the plan for the next few moves. I can even get some rating points in this game. It says that if I win, I get 7 rating points, draw would be -21, and lose would be -49. I mean, that is not that particularly happy for me, but I don't play it for rating. I play it for you guys, to help you improve your chess, to see my decision-making process in real time, and hopefully that's useful for you. If it is, you know what to do. I'm curious what he's really thinking about. Okay, he actually doesn't want to castle. I mean, that's so natural, just to castle first, make sure your king is safe, and then decide what to do next. Maybe he was afraid of me taking on d4, and so he didn't want to give me another chance to do that. But I mean, I don't mind him playing d5, because that gives me the c5 square immediately. Now I don't need that all plan with a6 and b5, because, well, my c6 pawn is under attack, but I have the c5 square for my knight. I can immediately go there, because it's gonna attack the e4 pawn. Afterwards, I need, of course, to play a5 to make sure that my knight cannot be kicked away with the move b4. So I anticipate queen c2 anytime soon, because that is the most reasonable way to defend, of course, because you don't want to make any moves back, any second moves with the same piece. Ideally, the golden rule is one piece, one move. You never want to make a second move with the same piece without a very good reason. For example, I played here knight to c5, so I basically broke that principle, but I made it for a very good reason, because my knight is incredibly active here on c5. That is an ideal place for my knight to be, and I'm also opening up my bishop here, having more space for my development. You have to be very careful with the move bishop g5 once you have played d5, because there is always this knight takes d5 potential, and I'm not sure why I cannot take it right now. Because whatever you take it with the pawn, I just take it back here. With the knight, I can still take it here. I don't see any problem with that. And if you take my bishop, then obviously I just take it back. I mean, that is a very common tactics pattern that hopefully you are aware. Let me know in the comments whether you know this idea that when they play bishop g5, you have this knight takes d5 idea. I don't want to play h6 first. If he plays bishop h4, yes, I win a tempo with this h6 move, but he can just take, and then I no longer have this idea. Unless I'm blundering something here, I don't see any problem with knight takes d5, so I'm gonna go for it. Sometimes you all also have some ideas like bishop takes a7, knight b4, and attacking the queen, but I guess that's too artificial here, because knight b4, he's gonna take my queen, I'm gonna take the queen here with a check, king goes somewhere, knight takes, and then this bishop escapes, and I have no way to save my knight there on e1, so that's not a good variation for me. He has quite a variety of opportunities here. All three possible takes here on d5, as well as takes here. Well, if he goes back, that's never a problem. I'm just grabbing this central pawn, which is of course essential, but well, I'm grabbing it anyway. Maybe he can get some activity with knight takes. I take it here, he takes back, queen takes, I don't know, some rook attacks, but it can never be dangerous. And also this g2 pawn is hanging. Although that pawn is something very important to take into account, that he can just make a long castles, then play rook g1, or even this rook to g1, and then my king might be in trouble. So g2 is a pawn that you should be careful about, especially before he makes the castles. But again, it's too early to talk about that, see what he's up to here. But apparently, yeah, he was just surprised by this knight takes d5 tactic. I suppose you should know that on a 2000 level, right? Maybe he just blundered it, didn't think about it when he played bishop g5. But the pattern, the system to never blunder like that is to always use 4 steps system formula, both for your moves and for your opponent's moves. Maybe the second one is even more important, because that way you're never blundering the stuff like that, and actually you avoid 99% of all blunders. So the 4-step system formula is checks, captures, threats, and active moves. So you are about to play, about to play bishop to g5. Now you should ask yourself, what can my opponent answer afterwards? Can he give me a check? No, I cannot. Can he capture something? And yes, I have a bunch of things to capture here, those 2 pawns, e4 and d5. And then, of course, you need to consider all of the possible captures there. And if one of them doesn't work for you, namely this knight takes d5 move, then you make a conclusion, well, bishop g5 is a bad move, and you don't make it. I mean, White still has some initiative, so there should be a way for him to still get a little bit of compensation, maybe using this d-file, because d6 pawn might be quite weak. So, not sure, maybe just bishop takes, knight takes, then bring the rook here. Okay, he takes with the knights. I can take the knight as well, but then he takes here and I don't win any pawns. So I wanted to take here. I don't see why it shouldn't work, because now I'm winning the piece back, and I'm also attacking the knight here. If he goes back with the knight, then I even get a pair of bishops, which is just a dream case scenario for me. And also I get this f5 opportunity afterwards, which in turn is great, because if I have a pair of bishops, I want to open up the position as much as possible. Only if you open the position up, then your bishop's pair becomes incredibly powerful. Knight b6. Okay, that's a tricky line. Somehow he wants to puzzle me, but maybe he just doesn't want me to get a pair of bishops. That is why he's doing that. So no matter what I do, he's gonna get one of my bishops. I don't want to get, like, it depends. If I want to attack him, I want opposite colors bishops, because then his bishop is not able to deal with my bishop's threats, so it's simpler to attack when you have opposite colors bishops. But if you're thinking more long-term towards endgame, then you don't want to get any opposite colors bishops. That is a very key difference to understand. I don't really have that many attacking prospects here, so I tend to take here on b6 and get to the normal position when I have, like, each of one has a light squares bishop and I have an extra pawn, and then I don't know, my dream is to remaneuver my knight all the way to d4, establish it there, and that's going to be very, very strong. And also, his light squares bishop is not that great because you see those pawns here. Whenever that is the case, the bishop is not really ideal. Okay, so I'm gonna take it here. I don't have any intermediate moves. Now he takes it back. So now I have a choice here between playing 96 immediately, but in that case, he can take it. I'm gonna take it back. Yes, I have an extra pawn, but yeah, I don't have this weakness on d6. Or I just start with h6, pushing the knight away, and then I have 96 with an idea to go here. I like it more. And also, well, that helps me to make a loop for my king, which is always useful. And also I have another idea in mind. After knight f3, I can play the move f5. Yes, that is a pretty aggressive approach, but, like, why not? I mean, I'm a pawn up, I have the initiative. If he takes, I'm gonna take it with the bishop, basically finishing my development. That would be with the tempo. His king is still in the center. I have all the reasons on yours to do that. Also, I'm just attacking the pawn here. If he does nothing, yeah, I'm gonna go for it. The final line is takes. If queen goes to d2 or c3, I have this 94 with another double threat. So it's always dangerous when you don't have the castles yet. Remember, I was talking way earlier in the games that he can just castle instead of playing that move d5, and that is where all of the troubles started for my opponent. So always make sure your king is safe first if you have that opportunity, and then go on with whatever you want, whatever you're up to. Because now he never gets this chance to castle, because every move I create a new threat for him, and that is a very, very annoying thing. And it's not gonna end anytime soon. That is the most difficult part. Because once you take and this bishop goes to f5, first of all, it's annoying on itself that you kind of help your opponent to develop his pieces with the tempo, because the queen is under attack and it has to go somewhere. And secondly, you just don't have a good square to go, because, like I said, d2 and c3 are not desirable because of 94. But where do you go? You have to protect this pawn. So basically, the only square left is c1. But then at least I have this knight d3 fork, so you have to take it. I'm gonna take it back with the bishop, and then you don't have any rights to castle. I mean, that is not a way to go on. So I don't think you actually can take, but if you don't take, well, another pawn is hanging. I will be happy to take it, maybe with the knight, just not to ruin my pawn structure. If you try to protect it, then I'm gonna take it with the pawn, and if you take it back, I have bishop f5, which is, yeah, once again, not an easy thing to handle, because in the end of the day, there might be an f-pawn hanging there. Okay, he's going for bishop to d3, which is kind of the same problem, because in the end of the day, there would be this pawn hanging on b2, there would be a check. By the way, there is a check right now, which is pretty annoying, because you cannot protect with the queen anyhow. The the bishop on d3 will be lost. So you have to play knight to d2, then I take it here, exchange it twice, or I can do it the other way around, doesn't matter. Then I can take on b2, and you cannot castle because the knight is hanging. The rook is also hanging, so you pretty much are forced to play rook b1 or rook d1, but then I also take another pawn. I mean, that is just too much. Too much to handle. Of course, I can just exchange everything and then just take on b2, but in this case, at least white gets the castle and the rook is protected on a1. So I do like to include this check first. I guess I could have taken on e4 first, it doesn't really matter that much. Everything is possible in every case. I'm gonna exchange everything here. Then I can also play bishop f5 with the tempo. I mean, that is just a dream case scenario out of the opening. So here is how you outplay a 2000 rated player from the very beginning as black. First, you play a solid opening that you really know a lot about. Like, you need to learn at least one opening. Yes, you don't need to learn a lot of theory, but at least one opening that you really understand deeply. I'm not talking about memorizing 30 moves variations. No, I'm talking about understanding and mastering the ideas of a certain opening. Then, once you do that, you can just create as many threats for your opponent as possible and try to use whatever he is playing that is kind of weird, like not castling in the right point is weird. So we have used it now and we are still using it, making it very inconvenient for him to somehow finish his development. Yeah, now I guess it's time for me to take. Attacking this bishop, there are no time for him to somehow play some counter threats because I'm going to take it here, attacking the queen. He probably has to take or just go back, but that is a second pawn for me in the center. Don't think that's a good idea. But if he takes, I'm going to just take it. Queen takes, and then I can even start with with bishop f5 because if he plays queen e2, he still doesn't protect the pawn. So that's another tempo move. The more tempo moves you have and you can make, the better it is for you because you develop more and more pieces. You're very active in the center and you're not allowing your opponent to finish his development. By the way, another advantage of the move bishop f5 is that after queen takes b2, rook b1 wouldn't be possible. So yeah, feels like my opponent is big trouble already after move 16 as white in the opening. I'm not saying it's gonna happen every time if you do that and play against 2000. Sometimes they might play very strong. But normally, if you are going according to the principles, if you are doing everything I teach you on this channel, of course, there are so many different videos you can take a look to improve your level, then chances are pretty high that you're gonna get a very decent result against, let's say, a 2000 rated player uh, in the long run. So yeah, bishop f5, just, I mean, I'm not doing anything special here. Yes, I knew this pattern knight takes d5, and hopefully you knew it as well, or you know it now if you didn't. And otherwise, I've just developed all of my pieces. I have just used the main ideas of the opening, which is to play c6, that is a key move, which is to bring your knight to c5, if you have a chance to do that, to attack the pawn. And then I just used my opponent's mistakes. That's basically it. Queen h4. Yeah, the queen is too far away. I guess he's going there just to get some, I don't know, attacking ideas because he feels like he's incredibly passive. He's losing a lot of material. If it goes that way, he doesn't have any chances. So he wants to be at least a little bit active, but unfortunately, that is just too late for that. So now the rook is hanging. Castles is not possible because the knight on d2 is hanging. Yeah, I guess queen h4 wasn't the right choice. At least you could have played queen e3, and then the knight would be still protected, and then castles would be possible. And then bishop d3 wouldn't also be available for me. And in this position, rook is in big trouble. The only square you have to not to lose it immediately is d1, but then just bishop c2 is possible. Yeah, sorry, guy, but you're in trouble. You're in big trouble. Let me know in the comments what is your experience playing against 2000 rated opponents. Are they strong when you play against them, or can you just win them in like 20 moves like I did here? What is your experience? I'm very curious to know. Okay, bishop c2 seems like an unstoppable move because, well, knight c4 is not possible. Even if the knight would be able to go somewhere, there would be a very annoying check. So bishop c2, I mean, he can castle, but then I'm just winning the exchange. That can be wrong. So that's the thing. If you're active, if you have a lot of attacking pieces, you're gonna get those tactical chances. And then your task is, of course, to use it to create as many threats for your opponent as possible. As you could have seen, the last like 10 moves, I'm creating constantly a new threat with my every move. That is your purpose, your main purpose of playing chess, to make your opponent's life as miserable as possible. Yes, chess is a cruel game. I can totally understand if you don't like it, but I mean, that's sport, that is how it works. So you can win, your opponent must lose. So let me just take it. And now queen to c2 basically is creating a huge threat here to win both of the pieces. But I also like rook f2, or rook f4, sorry, because that's adding a new piece into the attack. And from a instructive purposes, that is the best move, I guess, because you always want not to play with just one piece of yours. Yes, sometimes it might be enough. Although, yeah, there would be queen g4 and you will still need new forces to connect. But always the best thing is to connect as many pieces into the attack as possible, and the best case scenario is to connect all of them. Then it would be basically impossible for your opponent to handle all of it. So rook f4, well, he might have an active move, the first one in the entire game, but I don't see how it helps. Just rook d4 or queen c2, both moves are very good. And then, yeah, like you have one check, but just king h8 doesn't help you at all. Yeah, rook f4 seems to be winning here, because he has an exchange down, and besides that, he doesn't have any active opportunities. In fact, he has a lot of liabilities here. The rook is unprotected, the knight is pretty passive, doesn't have a lot of good squares to go, queen is awkwardly placed. When you have the more things like that, the more factors like that you have together, the higher the chances that there is something really tactical, really concrete for you, and that is your obligation to use it. The first world chess champion, Ilgame Steinitz, said if you have the initiative, you must use it, because otherwise it's going to disappear. Your opponent is going to be able to stabilize the position and just make sure that nothing dangerous is happening. So you don't want that. Instead, you want really to use the momentum. And that is what I'm trying to do. Continue my path with creating a new threat with my every single move. As long as I can do it while improving my position, that is the best thing I can do. Queen goes to h5. Yeah, that is actually a good move. I haven't really anticipated it, because the rook is protected now. It's not like it saves the game for whites, not at all, but at least it's not losing more material here. But okay, it could have happened anyway. After queen c2, once again there was queen to h5 or queen to g4. So now I'm thinking about just connecting yet another piece, because the f2 pawn is a huge problem. And once again, instructive purpose, I'm now developing all of my pieces. It doesn't matter even if it's already endgame, you still want to develop all of your pieces. It doesn't apply just for opening. I mean, if you're able to develop all of your pieces in the opening, that's great, but not every time it's possible. It doesn't mean that you should just stop and say, wow, that's a middle game now, I should just focus on other things. Development is for the opening, not for this part of the game. No, you should develop your pieces no matter what's happening on the board. Whether pieces are exchanging, whether there is something crazy going on, development is always the key. Okay, so how do you deal with rook takes f2 threat? The first move that comes to my attention is knight to f3, but I wanted to just play e4 because I have so many attackers there. I have to be a little bit careful because I don't want too many pieces to be somehow attacking here, but I don't think it's possible. Because, well, rook takes d6, you might say, but I'm just taking the knight and you are not even given any checks. So that's not dangerous. He plays f3, but that is actually breaking the only defensive idea he had before, which is his queen defending the rook, which would allow the knight to go anywhere if I play queen to c2 or rook to d4. Actually, like rook to d4 move, because now, as this f3 pawn is there, it doesn't make any sense for me to have the rook along the f file. It's not doing anything useful. Whereas on d4, that is a very useful piece. Pinning this knight, attacking this knight for the second time, that is the best move in the position. And there is absolutely no way for the queen to defend the knight. So Yeah, the queen h4 was really a huge mistake because it's putting the queen completely offside all of the actions, and you never want to do that. Now I guess it's time for my opponent to resign. Okay, my opponent doesn't want to resign. He plays rook to b1 instead, but I don't really see a point because I'm just a whole rook up now. So yeah, he has one active move, rook takes b7, but okay. Well, actually, yeah, if I'm playing too aggressive, like queen e1, rook d1, maybe he has a chance to just checkmate me all of a sudden, but yeah. Yeah, it's not too late to lose a game, so you always have to be careful with your opponent's counterplay. It doesn't matter how winning you might feel the position is, you always watch out for your opponent's counterplay. You can't even imagine how many times I was 100% sure that this position is so winning, I can win it with my eyes being closed, and then I just completely spoiled everything. And that was a classical tournament game where you expect the mistake, a huge mistake to happen the least, lose your game. So please don't repeat my mistakes, be very careful with that. While my opponent is still struggling and suffering, I would say, remember to hit the like button as well as write the comment to make sure you can get a chance to be my next opponent and be my next guest on this show, learn how I think, because, well, I truly believe that's going to be beneficial for you. You can improve your chess level hugely if you play this rapid game, not a bullet game, not even a blitz game, but a real 15 minutes plus 10 seconds rapid game where you can really think about your moves, you have time, and then once you are done with the game, you can analyze it and learn even more out of that. So please make sure to use this opportunity. Okay, queen g6 is played. I like this move because he's kind of provoking me to, I don't know, do whatever I want to do, and then he's gonna play rook takes b7, and all of a sudden, oh my god, checkmate is coming. But of course, I wasn't born yesterday, so I should be able to deal with it. The simpler thing is, of course, to play a queen g5, because as soon as you exchange with the queens, there is absolutely no danger. I am a rook up. What can happen? What can go wrong? Or another move is queen to d3, thinking that I'm gonna just attack both guys here and he must exchange the queens. That's not totally true because he has a check. Whenever your opponent has a check, be careful, because that, of course, would allow him to avoid this queen problem. King goes away, and then he takes. Okay, he didn't want me to find the right way to continue. He just resigned here. I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you know now the recipe to outplay a 2000 rated opponent, and you know what to do. Hit the like button. And in this video, you're gonna see another amazing game where I played the Sicilian defense, explaining you step by step how to outplay your opponent in a crazy, crazy tactical position. So you're gonna learn so much about the calculation principles there.